Good morning, everyone. It's so good
Morning.
to see you all. This is very exciting for us to be able to join our students from Carmel Catholic with three of our BVM sisters who are out in San Jose, California. That's been a great time to be able to join people across the country during this time. So, what I'm going to do is introduce you, and when I say your name, would you just raise your hand so that we can hear you? And then I think the sisters are going to take over and have some questions for you. How's that? So first we want to introduce Cami French. She's campus minister at Carmel Catholic. And then Esmeralda, who's one of the Spanish teachers. We welcome you. And how about Jennifer? There you are, Jennifer. Good to see you. Again, I think, right? Grace and Ella. There you are. And Sophia. There she is. And Anais and Bobby.
Hi.
Good to see you. Teresa.
Hi.
Where did Teresa go? Oh, there she is. Hi, how are you, Teresa?
Good.
Jeremy.
Hi.
Good to see you again. Colleen and Andrew.
Hi.
Is it Colleen Ann? Is that what you go by? Yes. And then Kate. Okay, did we get everybody? We also have with us then Sister Marilyn Wilson and Sister Betty Gabanini and Sister Elizabeth Avalos. And they are BVM sisters living in Northern California, but I have to also tell you they're very good friends of mine, so it was great to be able to contact them, to have them be part of our exchange today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our BVM sisters.
So Lori mentioned a friend of ours. See what a friend can do when he asks you something and you do it for them. But we thought we might begin with just a minute of quiet so that we can breathe deeply and touch into the spirit of life, the spirit of our God, Jesus and the Holy Spirit, just to let us focus on hope and focus on our conversation together. So let us just pause briefly for a moment. One deep breath and a nice smile. We are privileged to be with you. We honor and respect your enthusiasm, your youth, your involvement, and we are grateful that we were invited today to just be with you. We want to make this more a conversation so that you can chime in anytime, and if anybody's having any trouble hearing or seeing, just let us know one way or the other, like up volume, down volume, whatever. What we would like, because we aren't geographically close to you and we couldn't be next to you anyway, unfortunately now, but would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself from the perspective of your being in this new learning situation, learning online, and your family? Anything you'd like briefly just to tell us about yourself now and in the present would help us just kind of connect with you. Would that be okay? Okay, so anyone can start. Just again, how is it for you? What are you experiencing at this time in learning and in this crisis and in your family?
I think it's been fun to hang out with my sister because she's going to college next year. So it's been a blessing to have so much more time with her because of this. And yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off, but for me, it's been a really interesting time. We've been getting by my family through family board game nights, but I was actually suspected positive for coronavirus, and I've been sick for 2 months now. So it's been really difficult for me just in this entire time, but it really has brought a lot of faith to me. Just the fact that even after a month of uncertainty, I was finally able to get some answers on my test results, and that doctors are, I don't know, just inspiring how willing they are to help everybody out at their own expenses and risk. So, yeah.
We've just been spending a lot of family time together, which has been really nice. Lots of board games, movies, and we go to math every day on TV. We spend a lot of family time together, which is nice.
Yeah, it's the same for my family. So I have two younger brothers, and I've been like playing outside with them and spending a lot more time than I usually do with them. And I've also had more time to myself to sort of read and just relax.
For me, it's
Yeah,
been
we have a
pretty
lot of
interesting.
siblings.
Since my older brother is still at his apartment at school, so I've just kind of been here with my parents. So when I'm like on FaceTime with friends, it's been really worth it. But then I'm a senior, so I registered for classes, and the day that Governor Pritzker announced that we wouldn't be returning to school, I was like added into a group chat. So it just kind of like gave me hope for like my future.
We have a lot of siblings too, so we've just been like hanging out a lot and doing our e-learning together. Yeah, we've been going outside a little. So yeah.
It's definitely sad just missing all our classmates and teachers from school. But we're staying hopeful and trying to enjoy life as best as we can, like she said. Yeah.
I have a lot of siblings as well, so it's been fun to play with them and spend a lot of time with them. And my family's also been able to get together and pray the rosary every night, which we usually don't have time for, so that's been a blessing. So we're trying to stay hopeful, and we're spending a lot of time together.
Anyone else want to chime in? Even about how it is for your learning this way. I know you miss your friends and you miss being with the teachers, but do you think learning has been about the same, more difficult, better?
Learning definitely.
How do you say better? About the same? Very difficult? I don't want to cut anybody off. Anybody else? Elizabeth or Betty, you want to share?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how the teachers are feeling, teaching in this situation.
I'm more of a campus minister than a teacher, and I just feel like it's been so hard because so much of the beauty of what I get to do every day is that person-to-person contact. But I will say I'm just incredibly grateful for the technology that we have, and I've been very impressed by the students' ability to be creative with technology and to continue to reach out with technology. So, it definitely was a stumbling block at first, but I've been very inspired by what I've seen from our students and our teachers too, who've just been incredibly creative and diligent and have tried to work through it. But I really miss my wonderful students at Carmel.
I'm truly blessed to be working at Carmel. We are already a one-to-one school, so when we had to do the transition, I had already tried out a lot of things with my students, and I tried to get as much input from them as possible. Now what I've tried to do with the skills that I gained here, I'm trying to help as much as possible volunteering in the city of Chicago. It's been very difficult for the students out here, but our students at Carmel, they're amazing. If anything, I also learn from them and become better people.
So Betty and Sister Elizabeth, what would you like to say about how you're affected right now by being at home, sheltered?
Well, I was listening to video conferencing that Lori suggested of students from Georgetown University, and it was centered at Georgetown, and the people were from all over. But this one young woman was talking about that this is a time of getting to know your digital, authentic self. And I thought, now that is fascinating, that the digital person that you're presenting is obviously different than if all of us were to have met at Carmel and sat down in a circle and chatted. And I had been pondering for a bit, what is this digital authentic self that you present? Because most of our interaction with our friends have been by Zoom. And so just kind of getting comfortable with getting together. We have some friends who are in Los Angeles, and so the five of us have been meeting about once a week with them. And it's different, but it's good because you connect. So I think the challenge is becoming comfortable with this mode of interacting with others. So that's been one of the things. And we experienced a wonderful Holy Week. We have associates who are men and women who associate with the BVM community on a deeper level through prayer and social justice work and so forth. But Holy Week, we took turns, and there was about 12 of us, and we got together for Palm Sunday services and Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. And it was just a very, for me, a very spiritual and very in-depth, so it wasn't going to a church and experiencing that community, but it was experiencing another community together, praying together. And that was very meaningful.
Okay, Betty. Betty, how about you? Unmute yourself, Betty.
I had the phone ringing, and sorry about that. I live by myself, so I know probably a couple of the teachers might be the same. So I'm not graced by a wonderful family surrounding me. So I'm kind of have taken on the hermit life, to be like in a hermitage by myself. But it has been, I miss the companionship of other people. And luckily, Sister Marilyn and Elizabeth live a block away from me. So we do take walks together. So it's nice to be outside and looking at the wonders of creation. And we are able to share a couple of meals at times during the week. So that is a wonderful thing. But it's sort of having, I guess I would say I'm experiencing what it's like to be a retired person and not going out every day to work and, interacting with all the people that I interacted. I work for the Holy Name Sisters. I don't know if you are acquainted with them, but Sisters of the Holy Names, it's their retirement community. So I do a lot of work with them. I'm a liturgy and a musician, so I do a lot of work with them as far as singing and mass preparations and just visiting and being around them. So this time of not being able to go and interact with people is probably the hardest thing for me. So I do a lot of telephone calling or cell phone calling, so that's why the phone sometimes rings off, off the wall. Or I try and make contacts with people through Zoom, like Sister Elizabeth said, or actually through the phone. So it's a whole different ball game. Part of me likes not having to get in a car and go to work every day. That part's nice, but after 2 months worth, it's getting a little tiring.
I would ditto much of that. I am retired, but I'm a spiritual director and a retreat facilitator now in my life. And I also am connected with an anti-human trafficking group and a couple of other groups. So we've been trying to stay connected through Zoom. As I said, I would be going out to a lot of meetings and a lot of gatherings to support these causes, but I do a lot of advocacy online anyway. But you do miss the fact of being with people of like-mindedness who are helping you expand your horizons. One of the things about Zoom that we have used in the past, and we continue to expand it, but we have a Tuesday night prayer group that's been going on for over 15 years. And between Betty's house and our house, we host, and then people come, in physical presence. But with this virus, we have done everything on Zoom. We've done Zoom with people who couldn't travel here for a while, but at first it was very challenging because it was like, how do you be really spiritual and really, we have about a 20-minute contemplative prayer, and we're all sitting there in the quiet for 20 minutes, and then we share. But it has worked for the last several years, and now all of us are on Zoom. So we're beginning to experience what that's like for the others who were always on Zoom and came. So it is a challenge, but we are finding that we have had so much connections with community, congregation. We try to call our sisters in the mother house every day, somebody new, and we had on Easter Sunday a virtual brunch for about 2 hours. And we thought people would just kind of come and go. Well, most everybody, we had 35 people come and go. A lot of them stayed on. We talked about simple things like, what are you having for dinner? And then we talked about our connections with the international scene, with missions in Ghana and Ecuador and friends in Colombia. And so we got, again, an international perspective. And so it takes us out of ourselves and our focus to the world. So that's enough about us. So let's go on to the core values and BVMness. And maybe we would start, if you have some set questions, we have some things we could say to you, but maybe we start with your questions first, and then we'll fill in. How's that? Is that okay? If you have any specific, as we know, the core values, freedom, education, justice, and charity. And at the heart of it all, of course, is our mission statement: being freed and enjoying freedom in God's steadfast love. And we know that you have them in your hallways, and you've talked about the core values, and you've been surrounded by it for your 1 or 2 or 4 years at Carmel. And so we know you know a lot. So we maybe start with your questions first, and then we can fill in later. How does that go, Betty and Elizabeth? Okay? Okay.
How do you feel like your faith life has changed in this time of being at home and not being able to go to mass and all that?
Betty, could you hear the question? Was about our faith life and how we're not being able to go to mass and how are we keeping that alive? So.
Marilyn shared with you, our prayer life in particular, we meet every Tuesday evening to pray with a group of 12 people. As far as Mass goes, that's a little more challenging. It's trying to find Mass on an internet, either on TV or computer, and it's a wonderful time to kind of search around and find parishes and preachers, pastors or priests who maybe will give a good homily. Our community also provides a Mass at our mother house in Dubuque, Iowa, which you weren't able to go to. They have a lovely Mass on Sunday mornings. So I've been doing some hopping around to different, quote, parishes in different places. Also, the three of us have gotten together and we have prayed ourselves. There is a wonderful video on Catholic women preaching. So we take advantage of watching that on the computer to be able to hear what women theologians might say about the scripture readings for today. So those are some of the different ways that we do it. And to be able, I'm a musician, so I love to sing. So I try and find parishes or someplace that I can sing along with whoever's singing on the quote TV to be able to pray along. So, Elizabeth, you want to fill in with anything?
Yeah, I think the challenge is that prayer can be a solitary endeavor, which many of us have. We used to do 8-day quiet retreats where you wouldn't talk for 8 days. So I'm kind of used to that part. But prayer is also a community endeavor, and so I think that that's where the challenge comes. Again, we're fortunate that the three of us are close enough together that we can get together. And Marilyn and I have started a practice that before we turn on the television at night, we try to spend about 10 minutes just in quiet. So that has been extremely, extremely helpful. The Catholic Women Preach, which is something that you may want to just Google and find, is really good because it's different women, campus ministers, religion teachers, theologians. So it's a variety of women that reflect on the next Sunday's gospel readings. And so it gives you, they usually come on a Wednesday, so it gives you an opportunity to sort of stop and have a couple of days to reflect on the upcoming Sunday liturgy. And I think our experience of Holy Week was just, like I had mentioned, so very powerful. And with our associates, we're trying to meet once a month and using some materials and resources from theologian Ilia DeLeo and doing what we call the Omega Project. And that too is another opportunity to come together with people and to do some really deep sharing, of who our God is at this time. And that's really important. I can't remember, I think it might have been Jennifer shared the fact that she gets together with her family every night to say the rosary, which you don't usually have time, to do. And so again, it is coming together with family, with community, and praying together. So, we try to do it in our own way.
I would just say ditto to what Betty and Elizabeth have said. Don't need to repeat. As a spiritual director, I do now direct my directees. That's a strange term, but anyway, on Zoom. And my role is to listen to their faith life and the development in their relationship to God. So that for me is a major prayer. As I listen to them and their life story, it's a little bit different by Zoom because normally they're in my living room and I'm face to face with them. But it's kind of been working so far. But it's a wonderful way to connect with them. But everything that Betty and Elizabeth said is, I think I'd like to add, though, that the 10 minutes of prayer that we pray every evening in the quiet, and then we offer some petitions. We were doing that before this virus because we were praying for the divisions in our country. We were praying for our government. We were praying for our leaders. We were just so much caught up in what's going to be happening as far as elections are concerned. So it was a 10-minute of just trying to center ourselves. And as some of Teilhard de Chardin theologian and other theologians, Ilia DeLeo, have told us that our prayer, even though if it's one person or two persons, we can send out to this universe and to anyone who's ill or sick or grieving or needing our prayer. And we may not know what happens, but we can do that. And so our 10 minutes of commitment every evening, to me, just says that I may not know what happens. God is in charge, but I'm just asking for great, we are together as a community. So that's another piece. Okay, another question.
Can I just add one thing first before you go on to the next question? Another thing is to be creative within your own families. To gather, do you gather together, even if it's a Sunday or maybe it's another day? And there's wonderful things on YouTube as far as music goes. And I know Music for me is an important part, and it might be for you in your prayer life. So find some really, Christian, good, holy, songs on there, and join in songs, sing together as a family, or read scripture together as a family, make your own bread breaking, have bread there and say prayers and breaking bread and sharing meals and stuff. That's all part of what praying is about, being together and praying and having quiet time and intercession. So be creative in your families. Do your own thing.
Maybe we are reminded of how the early church did it in house churches. They didn't have big churches and institutions, and so they did it in their homes, and women led it and men led it, and maybe some neighbors joined, but we can make little churches to join to the big church when we can't get to the big churches. So another question.
How you think during this time of quarantine, what core value has strengthened for you guys during this time of self-isolation?
Excellent question. Let us take a moment of pause while we gather our thoughts. Anybody want to start? Betty or Elizabeth?
Well, one of my overriding, when I look at the 4 core values, I mean, they really all flow into one or the other, but justice is the one that really animates my life. And I think right now, during this time, a realization of the disparity in our country. I was listening to the news, and to hear that in Texas, many of the people there that work day to day and have, in a sense, essential jobs are getting $7.25 an hour. We live, like Lori mentioned, in San Jose, which is 45 minutes south of San Francisco. So we're in this, what is known as the Silicon Valley, and you cannot get a 1-bedroom for under $2,000 a month. That's the rent. And I think $7.25 an hour, there's no way, that people. So I think the whole justice as a core value, and what can I do during this time to ensure that when we get out of this, that there will be justice for everybody in this country, that everybody has access to health care. When you hear of people going to the hospital and they won't be tested for COVID because the doctors don't think that it's that serious. And this is just an everyday person. And that's happened to many people who have eventually died because they would not be tested. And yet, and I do love sports, so this has nothing to do about sports, but that a basketball player can get tested immediately. I mean, just the difference. Why does that happen? So, and it's writing to senators, is one way. Writing to your representative. We have a great representative in our area. He has a town hall meeting almost every week that you can watch on your computer. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, is on every day, telling us, giving us updates. And it helps me, it gives me hope when I listen to both him and Governor Andrew Cuomo every day giving an update and doing what I call a daily homily of really encouraging people to stay home, to stay safe, to take care of one another. And he keeps saying, we have to go from me to we, and he keeps emphasizing that. And so to see politicians really exercising their own values and bringing it forth has given me great hope. And like I said, then what do I do when I can interact with people? And right now, one of our sisters is in Ecuador, and she's a director of a Hansen's clinic. And Hansen's is what they now call leprosy, what used to be leprosy. And she has been there for over 20 years. And right now, Guayaquil is in really dire straits. And so just, praying for her and getting other people that do know her to also get involved by sending donations. That's an active thing that at this point, that I'm able to engage in as far as justice is concerned.
Eddie, are you ready?
As Elizabeth said, all four of the core values just weave in and out together for me. And I was thinking right now of the core value of education and how at this particular time, I am so much more aware of what's going around in our whole world, that the virus is not just here, but it's in, the Asian countries, it's in Africa, it's in Europe, it's in South America. And for how it ties into the education pieces is sometimes I can tend to live in my own little world. And this has really brought the perspective of the whole world into my living room, on TV, on my computer. And for me, that's an educational thing. The more education opens me up to what is going on in our own world. So the whole healthcare system, how it's not, it's not the same in every country. Africa doesn't have the same type of opportunities that we do. They probably don't even have ventilators. And, we're scrounging around to get ventilators in our places right now. And that to me is important, that I need to know that so that I can broaden my own perspective. The, listening and reading is another whole thing. Either newspaper or, the things that you are reading in your classes right now. I'm sure that they have a more world perspective than they did before. This whole experience of being sort of locked in. As much as we can be sheltering in place or staying in place, we can really connect up with what's going on in our world today. And that to me is an educational piece. I also, another whole education piece for me is having the opportunity to do an immersion trip. So I have been down to Guayaquil that Elizabeth just talked to, and to Quito, Ecuador, and again, being exposed to the lifestyle of people outside of the United States. For me, outside of, San Jose, California. And it just broadens my perspective. It makes me appreciate the things that I have, to be grateful for the fact that I've got plumbing inside my house, that I have water, that I have a roof over my head. This also would apply to the homeless that are present in all of our cities, the homeless who have no shelter, who have no food, who have no jobs, who have no healthcare system. It makes me appreciate all the more what I have, that calls me then to be about standing up for justice, that calls me to reach out in charity, especially right now, because I'm one of those, quote, vulnerable people because of my age. I can't get out there and help pass out food. I can't go out and do the volunteering that I would love to be able to do. So in some cases, I have to maybe write a check to the food bank that they can hopefully then buy the food to be able to give to people. Or I can work in my little garden outside and, tend my vegetables so that if I have extra, I can pass it on, like I'm doing to my next door neighbor now, who has 9 little guinea pigs. And, they don't have access to food right now for them. So I'm sharing my parsley with them. So it's doing those little acts of charity every once in a while. But would I be aware of that if I did not educate myself to what's going on in our world today? So,
As both Sister Elizabeth and Betty said, I can't separate out these core values right now. They are like, to me, a thread in a weaving, or, those stained glass windows in churches. They're like the pieces of different colors. or I was trying to think of another image, the tiles in a mosaic. They kind of just keep floating in and out. But if I was to focus, it probably would be on freedom and justice for me during this time. I do a lot online, and I'm connected with lots of organizations, justice organizations, and constantly I'm getting petitions and writing letters and making phone calls. And that's a little piece. But right at home, Betty and Elizabeth and I do cook a meal for the staff at the Catholic Worker House in San Jose. And so it occurred to us that maybe we probably ought not to go out. And then we said, no. So we still cook the meal. We take it down to them with our masks. They come out on the porch and we hand them the food and then we leave. They do run a shower program, which the BVMs a couple of years ago made a substantial grant to allow them to have a mobile shower, which travels around 4 days a week. And I admire their courage because they're still doing the shower program for the homeless. And we did at Christmas time. We went to sing. Betty led us in Christmas songs at one of the sites for the showers, and that just kept reminding me that these people are putting their lives online by doing that. And if we can do, and we're just doing a little tiny piece, providing food for the shelter. I mean, for the Catholic Worker House. The freedom is that I realize that I have a roof over my head. I have a community behind me. I have enough food. And so, again, as Betty said, it propels me to say, how is it that I can continue to make a difference even in this isolated position that we're in, that we can't go out? Would love to be able to volunteer at Sacred Heart Community Services, where Elizabeth worked several years, or Sunnyvale Communion Services, which give out food. But it's really not, we don't want to put others at risk, and we also have to be careful of our own age and our own, frailty at times. So the charity piece, I must bring this in though, because I think, I don't know about you all, but the personal relationships I have with former students, with the students I worked at on the human trafficking thing, reaching out, I just am very grateful for what the love they have shown me and that I try to show them. And then the connections with people all across the country that we know, BVMs, associates, friends, family. I have a brother in Kentucky and a brother in Canada, and their families. And I think it's just made me aware of how precious these people are in my life. And even though I am a geographical distance, it still is important to keep connecting, regardless of this virus, but to keep connecting and to keep, I'm just aware of how precious they are. And so it's very important. Knowing that, again, by any time, any moment of the day, I can connect with the divine, with my God, and whether I do it consciously or not, that if my heart is open and compassionate, that makes a difference for me and for those I love. So, okay. That's pretty heavy duty all stuff. Okay. Anybody else want to ask a question? Or this is good. This is great. Your questions are super. So. Or Betty or Elizabeth, is there anything you want to add to what you said, or something else struck you?
Well, in many ways, these are challenging times and I think it's giving, at least it's giving me an opportunity to stop and figure out, how do I continue to witness to the gospel sitting at home? Who am I witnessing to, and how do I do this? And yet I realize it's really in kind of like being open to who you encounter, what you see, and what you read, and trying to respond, at that moment to something. So when we go for our walks, just smiling at somebody and saying hello and asking how they are, The other day, there was a woman sitting on her porch. We live in a home park. Not sure, manufactured homes. We live in 2 manufactured homes in our home park. So we have lots of walking space. If you walk all the way around the perimeter, it's about a mile. Do it twice, you get your 10,000 steps in. So that's one way that we're trying to keep. But there was a woman sitting on a porch, and I just asked her, I said, so how are you doing? And she said, fine. And I said, do you have everything you need? And she said, oh, yes, and a friend next door would go out and get groceries. And she thanked us for asking that question. So just in this very small way of making contact. And at 5 o'clock, they've asked Santa Clara residents to go out on the porch and to clap your hands or to get pots and pans, and as a way of thanking first responders, or people doing essential things. And so we have somebody on our block who is a UPS driver. And so we went out yesterday, but they had said that they would be out, but we're out there with our maracas and we're trying to make noise. Nobody else on the street, so we have to tell our neighbors about this. But anyway, so I texted them and I said, we're outside thanking you for what you're doing. And then she responded back that her husband had a sore shoulder from all the work he was doing, and she had just gotten back, but she thanked us. And again, it's just a small way of really being a witness to the goodness of God for other people. So like I said, that has been a real challenge of how do you do it, because we've gone to marches, and so you're with a whole bunch of people, and you're marching and you're witnessing in that way, and we wear our T-shirts that say we're BVMs and we're out for justice. So that's a real witness. But day to day in your home, how do you do it? So the challenge is there, but there are ways if we're just really open.
Maybe you want to stand up, Elizabeth, and show your shirt, your BVM shirt. There's her volunteer shirt. And this is one that Lori gave us. It's the one about honor your past. I forget what it says, Lori, but I forget read honor. Anyway, our BVM shirts anyway. So it just reminds me of a story I'd like to share, because it reflects our connection with all of humanity, but on a specific. We do participate in a lot of marches. Last year, the Women's March, the Climate March, the da-da-da-da. So there was another march this year early on, and we're getting to the point where we can't walk a lot. Betty is the best walker, but so we decided we take the light rail downtown to San Jose City Hall, and we would join. It was a youth march. We would join them, but so they were going to walk maybe about 2 miles, 3 miles. So we get there, and mostly older people are helping set up. So we sit down on one of the concrete steps and wait for the young people to come. So they come, and we were so proud because all the high schools were represented, and especially the 2 Catholic high schools. And they had been planning this march for a year. And it was a young woman out of San Francisco who was the main agent. And so we felt that just again by our presence, that we are just there being present to you to support, that the world and you, as how you create it, how you imagine it is going to happen. But there was this funny incident where this older gentleman came by with this big orange thing, those orange things that hold water, when you're having okay, so he said to us, now would you protect this? Because he said, this is for the young people walking, not for us. So we kept thinking, are we going to be the water police? I mean, where are we supposed to? So we sat behind this orange thing, and yeah, we can watch it for you. So the young people come, okay, and we're at their speeches, and there's wonderful things going on. And this one young woman looks at us and says, "Can I have a drink?" And we said, sure, this is for you. So we watched as people came up and drank out of this big orange thing. And I think it realized that part of our role is that we may not be able to be as active as we have in the past, but we can be present. We can be supportive. We can be encouraging. We can listen. So what I'd like to do now is listen to you. What what core value strikes you as helpful to you? And is there any piece that you would imagine a future that you could share for us? So can we just listen to you, and as you think about what is your core value that for right now means something to you, and could you just share about how you imagine your future?
I'd say sorry, our dog's gonna be barking probably. A big one for me, I think, is justice. And I think that's come more into my life through high school. Junior and senior year, I've been a part of the social justice club, and Carmel students, you guys know we took that class, social justice. I don't know if that was junior year, sophomore year, junior year, yeah. But I think that's really started to, and as I'm a senior now, as I've been thinking about careers and future pursuits, I guess, I think justice is always that word that's kind of in the back of my head. And I'm not sure what I want to do as a career. I'm going into civil engineering in college, and like I said, the thing that's been kind of the foundation for that desire, I'd say, is justice, and a desire to I feel like I'm kind of rambling right now, to be able to promote justice and whatever direction my career takes me, my goal is kind of social justice, and that's what I want to do for the world in whatever way I can. So I don't know if that made sense. That was just my mind going. But if anyone else would like to share, Anais, I don't know if you have something, but anyone else.
Thank you. Perfect.
So at least personally for me, I think, all of them are important, but especially now charity. I actually have it here. My friends and I have been doing this little exchange over the time. So Miss friend Caitlin dropped off a batch of brownies at my house. We've been driving around just like randomly to people's houses, dropping off random gifts, and just to show people how much we still care about them. We actually had a college reveal party for me on Sunday. All my friends came, and they stood 6 feet apart across my entire lawn, spanning both neighbors' yards too. It was just, I don't know, like, even though I can't go to food pantries and stuff like that right now because I'm immunocompromised and I'm sick, people, like, I can still exemplify charity in other ways. And I think that's honestly the most beneficial part about this. Like, charity, and like as we know traditionally, is always helpful, but it's kind of opened my eyes to see there are more ways to show charity than just your stereotypical, serving at a food bank or something like that. Just being there for someone, just standing in someone's yard and honking your your horn, or dropping brownies off at someone's door can really make a huge difference in their lives, especially now. And in the future, I would like to be a physicist or a chemist. I wanted to be an astrophysicist, but now I'm not really sure. It's kind of shaky. But either way, I wanted to put people like on Mars or something, so we can. I wanted to do it. I wanted to be in NASA, so I can both protect people in my country, but also to ensure that I can protect the astronauts that go into space. I just see it as a good deed to help humans as a whole just to progress. So the further we progress, the more people we can save and the more people we can help. So, yep.
I personally think that education strikes me because during this time I'm like learning more about God because, like my brother said, he's been saying the rosary and going to mass and saying the chaplet. And also, like, I've been learning more about like others by like Zoom meeting them, and that's like super awesome. And when I grow older, I want to be a 3rd or 4th grade teacher. So I think that is gonna stay with me.
So this sort of falls under charity and education, but I've been working on making literacy kits for the people who use the Libertyville Township Food Pantry, the students that go there. And so I've been using my extra time in quarantine to make worksheets and pick out books that I think that they would like.
Another thing that we've been doing, so me, Teresa, Kainan, and Jennifer are leaders for a youth faith thing called Challenge Group for young girls. And we've been doing it for a couple years now, and we did it all this year. And so during quarantine, we had the idea to make videos for the girls to stay in touch with them and just to see how they were doing and let them know that we are still thinking of them. This kind of ties in with justice and one of Carmel's core values, community. At Carmel, we're a very tight-knit community, you could say, and me and actually Bobby were two of the presidents of the Social Justice Club. So before this whole quarantine started, Mrs. French, my mom, had the idea to have like a live stream prayer every night. That different members of our community can join if they wanted to. So we started, I don't even know, maybe like a month ago when this all started. And we've been doing it every night at 8 p.m. on Instagram Live. So people can like follow us and look at all our posts, and we'll post about pictures of the school and just to keep people connected. And it's really cool because every night you jump on and we'll give them like 3-ish minutes for everyone to join, and then we'll start prayer. And when people join, they can comment their intentions, their prayer intentions. So it's just really cool to see people from all over Carmel's community, parents, teachers, students, all joining in, praying every night at 8 together. It's an awesome thing, and I think it really shows how close our community is at Carmel.
I don't want to sidetrack this anywhere, but well, this is a way maybe you could practice one of the core values of education. I don't know how to do live stream Instagram, so I'm intrigued. Can anybody tune in to the Carmel prayer?
Yes, it's Instagram account, and every night it'll like pop up like we are going live, and there's like a little icon that you can press.
Right.
So anyone can follow us. I know there's a lot of like Carmel alumni who are following, parents, teachers, students. So anyone can follow and join it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. See what you can do for elders. You can teach them all of these little tricks that they are weary, a bit leery of doing, but know that it really works. It's a great thing that you're doing that way, and it is a way to keep the community together, the Carmel community together. It's great.
I'll make sure to share the information about joining us because it's open to anybody and everybody. So I'll share that link with Lori, and then maybe she can share it with the BVMs, because that would be incredible to have some BVMs praying right with us. In my 20 years at Carmel, the BVMs have been a consistent inspiration, and they're like within the very life of our school, and we feel that influence every day. And so it's just really a privilege to be able to be together today in this way and learn from each other and grow in relationship with each other. So thank you very much for that. I just, I for one want to really thank you for this opportunity. And you know, these are all my wonderful students, and I love them, but they always impress me, and I'm always so grateful for all that they bring to the table. And I personally always enjoy learning from you, BVM sisters. It's just really a privilege. So thank you for that.
Well, and I want to thank the three sisters too for joining us today and being part of this. And to the students at Carmel, this is kind of your trip to Mount Carmel, I guess, you know, because you couldn't make it this year, but hopefully next year you'll be able to make it. And I always enjoy coming to Carmel, but I know that there are people that have other meetings at 2 o'clock. So I know this is short. It's been great.
Before we go, Lori,
yeah.
Before we go, could I extend an invitation? Whenever this quarantine and we have reached the vaccine and we have reached the possibility of travel, if any of you are ever going to get out to Northern California, Sunnyvale, California, you are most welcome to Betty's house or our house.
Yes. Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
They're right down the street from the 49ers Stadium, right down.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, we know some of the best ice cream stores out this area, so we could treat you to some ice cream. There's one in San Francisco that's real special. There's one also on Tasman Drive where we live. I make ice cream, so that was another option too. But anyway, but really, at any time or wherever your vocation takes you, whatever college that you end up in, you know that we are supporting you. We will remember all of you in prayer. We have your names, so we will remember you in prayer.
And thank you.
Yeah, and congratulations to the seniors. Sorry you don't have a graduation, but congratulations to the seniors.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to everyone.
All right. Take it easy.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.